Who's got better Mexican food, LA or Arizona?
LA.
No.
I got to know the secret handshake and to get in. It's not a cult though, right?
No, not a cult.
No. Oh, no. No.
Josh Allen tried to recruit you to Buffalo by saying it's not that cold. What other players reached out and lied to you like that?
Cut to it, cut to it, let's get down to it. Cut to it, cut to it, cut to it, let's get down to it.
Well, appreciate you coming on to the Cut to It podcast. I'm your host, Steve Smith Sr. Got my co-host, Coley Mick, man, Christian Kirk. It's an honor and privilege to have you on the show, fellow wide receiver.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate y'all.
Man. So we just go do a little few icebreakers. If you could travel anywhere, go back in the past, push forward, go back to your childhood, just anything. Sky's the limit. Where would you teleport and why?
Where would I is this strictly just in my football career?
No, this is life. This is
life.
This your world. We're just in it. Yeah.
Honestly, I'll probably go back to high school.
Oh.
A little freshman in high school.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my time, growing up here in Arizona, Saguaro High School, just a kid, not knowing much of what's to come from my football career. I had a slight bit of success at the time, but, coming out of Pop Warner football, it doesn't really mean much. And I was ready to, I was so football driven, as a kid, and that's really the only thing that I cared about. So going to high school was like the true benchmark for me to be able to tell, am I going to be able to play, for a long time in the future? Am I going to be able to go to college, get an education, or am I going to be a kid that, loves football, plays football in high school and, tries to, go that way academically and, maybe just do it as a hobby. Maybe it just becomes something as a hobby, build some relationship with some friends. And so, it ended up, working out the way that I wanted it to work out, with a lot of hard work but also surrounding myself with a lot of, really good people and a lot of friends and family that, I still have to today. And, that place really kind of, I would say launched me into, becoming the person that I wanted to be.
So you would teleport back to your freshman year of high school.
So like 5 years ago.
Okay. All right. Well, what's your favorite? If you could only eat one food, like one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One meal?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
I'll be curious to know your answer on this. I probably got to go with, oh man, this is hard. I probably got to go with just like a good street taco, man. Living out here in Arizona, growing up in Arizona, a good street. I could eat street tacos all day long.
It's good to know you like that street meat. All right, cool.
Hey. Yeah. It's too early for that.
Coley, what's yours?
I do think something along those lines was probably the right answer. I'd probably go burrito. You hit all the main food groups when you get something like that. I think that's the most versatile moving forward.
So I have a confession with being at the Super Bowl for, almost a week. Bro, I'm not lying. I had so much like tacos, Tex-Mex, that like Taco Tuesday. I haven't had a Taco Tuesday in a long time now because I was inundated with tacos so much that it was kind of a little bit too much, right? But there's a spot back home I'm from LA, a spot back home that I go to. I can't go to all the time, but I go to a lot when I'm back home. It's called Ramona's. Right there on where's it? 132nd, 135th, and Normandy. So they have like burritos that I get. So I would say a burrito from a specific place from back home.
Who's got better Mexican food, LA or Arizona?
LA.
No.
Yeah.
No.
LA doesn't have Tex-Mex. We have Latin, Mexican food, not Tex-Mex, not the
I feel like you're throwing Texas's problems onto Arizona.
No,
right.
but
I'm wondering where Tex-Mex is coming from.
well, because when I was in Arizona, there were a few places that advertisement was Tex-Mex. Is that fair to say?
No, because I think that you were a Super Bowl. You staying in Scottsdale, staying somewhere nice. You got put up somewhere nice. So around there, yes, they may serve more as authentic Mexican food because you have to sell to the
masses,
average consumer.
Yeah.
But just like LA, you come to Arizona and you go to South Phoenix, you even go down to Tucson, which is 2 hours from the border.
Okay.
You have real Mexican food.
Okay.
Like real Mexican food.
Gotcha.
So just like your Ramona's,
yeah,
we have plenty places out here that sell the true, like,
okay,
you got to know a little Spanish when you go in there to order. They got the red fire chickens hanging up by their neck in the back.
Yeah.
You know, you got the fresh tortillas, but you gotta know kind of where you're operating. But maybe
that's legit. I agree with that. Now
that's my argument.
But unfortunately, I was not capable of going 2 hours
right
down the way close to the border to get it. I just know maybe like 20 minutes after I get off a flight. That's not by the border. That's just good, authentic. So I understand. And I'm sorry that I was unaware of how, like I got to know the secret handshake and to get in.
We gotta get rid of Tex-Mex in your vocabulary when it comes to addressing Arizona Mexican.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I apologize. I'm sorry that I could read. I apologize. I am sorry.
All right, fair.
I'm only saying what I saw. Like it said, Tex-Mex. I said, huh, okay.
I'm gonna go when I go driving today. I'm gonna go look for some Tex-Mex signs.
Okay.
Valid.
All right. So, all right, let's get to it, man. Where are you from and the place you call your hometown?
I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, born and raised. Live in Scottsdale, Arizona now. I actually live 10 minutes away from where I went to high school.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So what sport did you grow up loving as a kid?
Football was my first love. I played a little basketball all the way until I got high school and realized that I wasn't going to get out of the 5 foot range category. So I was like, that basketball is not going to be my thing. But I was a football and basketball guy. Okay.
So you say the 5 foot range. What does size have to do with
basketball? With basketball, there's I think there's less than 1% of NBA players that were 5 foot. So just the odds, I was playing the odds game at the time.
So it had nothing to do with your jumper, none of that.
Oh no.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
He said, of course not. Yeah, no.
Mine had to do with
a talent thing. It was not a talent thing.
Okay. All right.
Talent was there.
Yeah. My talent was not there. So I just had to go on record.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's good cardio. It's good cardio. It's good cardio. Man, so just describe to us what was it like for you to grow up in Scottsdale? Like, what was your experience?
Yeah, it was great. Like I said earlier, there were so many people that I met early on in my life that, saw my talent and my ability and just really helped facilitate, me and help getting me to, where I wanted to go, my aspirations and my dreams. I feel like my parents were very good at, helping me realize what I wanted in life and, telling me and getting me to dedicate to work towards every step, not trying to skip steps and also taking the bad with the good as well along the way. But, it just taught me to work for everything. Parents were both working class. And so just being able to see them and, just the way that they went about everyday life. And like I said, just putting me around the right people really helped, mold me into to who I am today.
You talk about your freshman year, you talk about you love to go back to that. That was a good time. What was your high school experience? Being an athlete, being highly recruited.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to be highly recruited in college or pros, but to experience what you experienced at a young age, what was that for you?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of trial and error, because you at a young age, you have to realize that you're not like every other high school kid. You can't go to all the parties and you can't go, after school and just hang out with friends. During the summer, you can't, go on vacations and spring break and go to the beach and do this and do that. I was taking summer school classes so I could graduate early. And, during spring break, I was, taking, unofficial visits and going to campuses and learning about the schools that I wanted to go to and 7-on-7 tournaments and, trying to, keep putting my name out there and whatnot. So it kind of was just dedicating myself to, football and what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. Made some mistakes along the way, just being a dumb teenager and, trying to, be a little bit too big for myself. And, but like I said, I had great people around me that helped, kind of pull me back in and put me back on the path that I was trying to be on. So, but it was a great overall experience. I went to a football high school that, they live, eat, and breathe, football. So it was great to be a part of that and all the support, that was, around our program.
Not being able to be a kid, like you stated that, not being able to go on vacations because you got to visit schools, not doing the kid stuff, going through that process. Did you ever feel like, man, this isn't worth it or it's too much? Or did you ever have those moments where you just kind of was like, man, I don't know if I want to keep doing this?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I know I say I want to go back to freshman year of high school, but I think that was, one of those moments where I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know how much I really love it. I don't know how much I really want to put into this because, the older you get, the more, kind of time and the more things that were kind of coming onto my plate. And I was more interested at the time of, just being a high school kid, doing all the things that my friends were doing. And, my parents, like I said, my parents did a great job. They were holding me accountable and, saying, you can't do that. If you want to do this football thing, you can't do that. But they did give me the option, like, if you don't want to do the football thing full time and you just want to be a high school kid, do it. We're going to support you no matter what. Whatever you want to do in life, we're going to support you, but you got to make the decision yourself. And so I think I went through a phase where I was burnt out with football and just didn't know if I really wanted to keep going with it. But it was a phase that I kind of like worked through. I was still, playing and whatnot and, practice. I wasn't excited to show up to practice, wasn't excited to show up to workouts and whatnot. Not that, you don't feel that same feeling, along the way in the future. But yeah, it was just one of those things I kind of had to work through. But I would say that was probably the moment, pretty early on in high school where I was kind of second guessing myself.
Now, coming out of high school, you have an opportunity to go to college. Take us through the recruiting process that you went through compared to now the recruiting process with the NIL money, the transfer portal. Like, you're still young enough to remember, right? Because it's right there with your age. But I mean, an old head like me, man, it was like 20 years ago, right? They didn't have NIL. They didn't have any of that stuff. I mean, college players didn't even have their name. When NCAA came out in football, like on the video games, they didn't even have the player's name. They just had the number, and you knew that was you. Now it's things are totally different.
Right. Yeah. For me, during my recruiting process, I want to say this is when, people started to be real. I'm sure they had before, but for me, people in my age group were starting to get real active on Twitter. And so like Twitter started to be a big thing, and Instagram too. Instagram had just started like catching some wind. And so it was like the cool thing. Every time you got an offer, you tweet it, and then you put it out on Instagram. So like you couldn't wait to be able to post to whatever school had offered you at the time. And so I remember doing that, and just trying to get an interview on Rivals and 24/7 and ESPN just to get your name out there. Now you got dudes getting highlight videos from 7-on-7 tournaments and mixtapes, and it's the whole game has changed. If you had told me back then that I could get paid for doing marketing posts for Raising Cane's, I would have been like, that's wild, especially in high school. And some of the money that these guys are making is nuts. And so that's the selling point for a lot of these schools now is the NIL stuff. But for me, Texas A&M, ended up going to Texas A&M. I had actually went there with Kyle Allen, who is a quarterback in the NFL now, just signed with the Buffalo Bills. And he was committed there at the time. He's like, hey, why don't you come along with me? Come check it out, where I'm going to go to school. He had committed. So I was just kind of like the friend that came along with Kyle. I was a freshman at the time. I had one offer from I had two offers from UCLA, ASU, but nobody else. And so
hold on. Kyle Allen was a teammate of yours?
So we grew up in the same area.
Gotcha. Okay.
Playing youth football together, and he went to a high school down the street from me. So we had known each other for a long time. So I had went along and went to Texas A&M, checked it out. The coaches, didn't really know who I was, but they were like, once you leave, we'll check out your film and, hopefully we can start recruiting you. And so the rest was kind of history from there. They, Coach Sumlin and the whole staff was pretty adamant about recruiting me and getting me there. And, I had fell in love with the school, the university. It was my first real visit. So it was the one that just really stuck with me. And it was funny, I went to so many different places, but the whole time in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to go there. And so ended up, committing there after my senior season. And like I said, graduated early and enrolled in January to get there early on campus.
What was your experience on campus? Was it what you thought it was?
It was funny. My first week, they were about to start fourth quarter drill. So, just the winter workouts, which is usually the hardest part of off-season workouts, mat drills, 4:30 a.m. And so I kind of got baptized real early. I was still 17 at the time, I think. And I was just getting cussed out by all the coaches because I was out of shape. I thought I was in shape, and it was one of those things where I got to realize where I was real quick. And I remember walking to class after my first week. I think it was on a Friday, and we had one of the harder workouts, and I got crushed. I remember calling my dad, and I was like, Dad, I don't know what I got myself into, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, because what these dudes are doing right now, I can't even hang. He just told me to stay in the fight and just take it one day at a time. And so there's just funny. It's funny looking back on it now because, by the end of it, you start getting used to it and just kind of seeing myself progress. I was a two-time captain at Texas A&M, and one thing about that school is just the quality of people that go there, the quality of people that are just around the campus, the facility, and a certain standard and expectation of how you carry yourself. And so, just all the love and efforts I was put into Texas A&M football was awesome. So I'll do it 100 times over again. Definitely one of the best decisions of my life.
Now, there are some people, not me, but some people who call Texas A&M a cult. Your response?
I guess you could see where that would come from.
Yeah.
You go into the stadium, and the game day experience is like nothing you've ever experienced. You got the Corps cadets marching around, and during the game we have 50 different chants that we do.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you got all the chants that you do, and if you're there and you've never been there, you're hearing all these chants. You're like, how does everybody remember this?
Well, they practice.
Yeah. Well, you do. You go to the practice the night before midnight yell on Friday night, and everybody gets in the stadium.
Have you never heard of this, Steve?
You never heard this?
No, I have not.
So probably about, I mean, if you're planning on going to the game, it's a big thing, but probably about 50,000 people go to the stadium the night before the game.
Okay.
And at midnight, they go in there, and there's 4 guys that are elected every year. They're called the yell leaders. And so at the game, they're basically our cheerleaders. They run around in white suits, and, they lead the stadium. They lead all the fans and all the yells and all the chants. So they go in there and they practice, but it's a whole big thing. So you know what to do during the game on Saturday. So to answer your question, I can see where it stems. I can see where it stems from. I wouldn't say it is, but I see where it stems from.
Do you have a ring? Do you have a Texas A&M ring?
Yeah, I have an Aggie ring.
Huh. Is that like, does that help you get in the back door? You flash that ring?
Yeah. You just, when you walk past somebody in the airport, you hold up your ring.
Oh, wow. Oh, you hit them with the,
you
sign.
Well, actually, it's supposed to like when you go like this, when you gig them, the ring sits right here.
When you what?
When you give them Aggies.
Oh, okay.
But like if I know you're an Aggie, I see your ring, I go gig him. He holds up his thumb, gig him. You see the ring, so
that sounds like how you get out of a speeding ticket.
Oh yeah,
gig him Aggie.
Oh.
You see that gold ring?
It's not a cult though, right?
No, not a cult.
No. Oh no. No. We're not. Never. Meeting at midnight with a whole bunch of us in all white.
Listen, rural Texas, you know what I mean?
Rural Texas,
pitch black.
Pitch
4 guys in white suits, no
white
hoods,
suits,
all white.
No hoods, right? No. Any bonfires? Huh? What do you
capital
say?
T's on the line? Yeah.
Huh? Any bonfires?
Chill out.
No, it's a question. It is a question. You can't ask me to chill out when I'm just asking a question.
There is there are you heard of the bonfire accident? Have you heard of the bonfire accident?
I live in the South. I've heard a lot of bonfires.
There was the big bonfire accident that happened November 18th of, I forget what year it was, but they had a giant bonfire that ended up killing multiple students. Yeah, and so they discontinued the bonfire. They don't do it anymore. Actually, they do it on, I want to say, because Aggie Muster is the night before. They celebrate the night before.
Aggie Mustard?
Muster, like Muster.
Yeah, like what goes on a sandwich.
No, mustard. That's mustard. Yeah, mustard. Anyways,
I'm not trying to be funny, bro. I'm trying to pick up what you're putting down.
They brought the bonfire back for a memorial a couple years ago. I'm probably wrong. Some Aggie's gonna watch this and just crush me for not knowing my history.
It was 1999.
1999.
Yeah, 12 people lost their lives.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was. Well, the bonfire was I want to say it was 40 feet tall or something like that.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, they built it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we poking fun at it, but I really didn't know it, right? I try not to get too much information because I love to, when I'm talking to the person, hear and learn something new versus I kind of knew that and I glance over it. But it was I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Doing research for this, one thing I didn't know, there was a guy in your high school receiver class who was either one ahead of you or one behind you in 24/7, all the rankings. And now he's your teammate. Is this something you knew? This is Calvin Ridley. You and him were 1-2 pretty much everywhere that high school year. So you guys have kind of been spy versus spy, shadows of each other this whole time. Is this something you've thought about? Is this something you guys have talked about?
Yeah. And I've always kept up with Calvin. And obviously we played against each other all 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
College, him being at Alabama. But we went, to the Nike opening, together. And we were able to come back as they called us counselors, but Nike basically brought back some of the top guys, in our draft class. So me and Calvin were the two receivers that came back and were able to hang out, with some of the kids at the Nike opening, and then have kept up with each other, for a long time. And so that was, when I, found out that we were trading for him, it's pretty exciting because, anytime you have a prior relationship with a guy, it always helps. But, just knowing his game and my game, I think we're going to complement each other really well.
Well, you talked about football, man. Let's dive in a little bit of football conversation. You're still young enough to kind of remember. You haven't forgotten everything about your process. But there's two things that are happening right now. One is the draft is coming up in about a month, and so leading up to the draft, being a guy like yourself, you leave school your junior year, and you're highly touted as a guy who's possibly a first or second round draft pick. What was that process like for you? And knowing what these guys are going through right now, tell people that are listening, like what they're going through behind the scenes that are not shown on the cameras. It's not on ESPN. It's not on NFL Network that really transpires heading into the draft and the draft process.
Yeah. So, I think obviously it starts with, the combine training for the combine. That's the big, kind of benchmark, the first step into, getting to the draft. And so, you go through about 5 to 6 weeks of, intensive training, and, you get to about week 3 or 4 and you're getting a little antsy, combine's about 2 weeks out, and training has kind of become a little redundant. So, you're in there 5 days a week. And, you're trying to keep your diet right. You're trying to, do all the things to keep your body right. And, mentally, you're also trying to prepare yourself as well, for when you get in those meetings that get you on the whiteboard. I remember just going back and just looking over my college playbook, just making sure I knew, everything that I had been taught so I could, be able to portray it in those meetings. And I know that was the one thing that helped me out. But, you get to the combine, and, you do your thing at the combine. I'll say this. I wish, looking back on it now, you kind of build the moment, you kind of build everything up a little. It's like bigger than what it actually is, instead of just going out there and just testing and going out there and just running routes. And, you think if you take 2 right steps instead of 2 left steps while you're walking down the hallway, that somebody's going to see you and say, oh, we're not going to draft him in the first round. Just like little stuff like that. You think everything, like you are under a microscope, you are, but if you build it up too much, it becomes stressful. And I remember I was just like way too stressed out the whole time, just worried about, oh, they going to draft me in the first round, or, oh, did I do this enough, or did that, that stuff's out of your control. And it was the same way leaving, going up to the draft, and even on draft day, I had all my family out here in Arizona and everybody in the house watching it. And, we had a big party on the first day, and, I was praying that I would go on the first day. And, looking back on it, it's like, if you get drafted, if you're not going top 15, like 15 and on, and then especially into the second round, it's like, it's all, hand in hand to me, it's all technically the same. And so I remember being so disappointed after day one and not going day one, because it had always been a goal of mine to go first round. I wanted to go first round. I wanted to prove to people that I could be a first round draft pick. And so it was tough in the moment, but looking back on it, it's like, it's the best thing that could have ever happened. But, I remember, being so pissed off. I didn't really sleep. I got up at, 4:30 in the morning, got a workout and went and trained, before day 2 started. And then, boom, I get a 602 number, which is a Phoenix area code, pop up on my phone. And I'm thinking it's just like a scout from Arizona. I'm like, there's no way the Cardinals are calling me. So I'm thinking it's a scout from a different team, or somebody with an Arizona code calling me. And it was Steve Keim. And, I was able to have that call with Steve Keim, Michael Bidwell, and everybody. Steve Wilkes was the head coach at the time. And, just realizing that I was going to Arizona and staying at my hometown was just was unbelievable. So just such a dream come true. But, like I said, if I could go back and do it again, I I wouldn't just be so, stressed out and care about what everybody, or what I was supposed to, or I thought, people thought I was supposed to do, instead of just like taking the process one step at a time and, just being thankful, that I was there. But it can be stressful. And, you got guys around, when you're combine training, you got first rounders, guys who are going to go undrafted, you guys are going to go probably top 5. And so, there's dudes getting marketing deals already. And I'm sure now too, you got dudes doing NIL marketing deals. And then you got other guys, sitting there like, oh, why isn't my agent doing this for me? Or why am I not doing that? Or why, so there's just so many different things you're learning. Like you're trying to learn how to become a professional and not a college kid, aspiring to be a professional. So just little things like that, I think there's just like external pressure with some of these kids.
What you get drafted by the Arizona Cardinals and now home team. So you're super excited. What are some of the things that you learned about yourself coming from the college level, being a very capable, damn good college receiver to now becoming a NFL receiver? What was some of the things that you had to learn or you were already prepared for or weren't prepared for?
I think the biggest thing that I had to learn was my process, and knowing that my process is different than a lot of other guys' processes, in a sense to where, Steve, I'm sure you've played with plenty of guys that, they can just show up and kind of do the bare minimum and still go out there on Sunday and produce to a certain level, a certain extent. And then you got the guys that, are in the building at 5 a.m. and they leave at 9 at night, and they, go in there and they outwork everybody, and they have to put in a lot of extra to be able to get themselves to perform week in and week out every Sunday. And so I think as a young guy, for me, it was just finding what works for me. And so I was more the guy that kind of would run himself into the ground and just would overwork myself, always try to like grind. I got to outwork everybody. And, it kind of caught up with me. I had some injuries just because my body, I could not, sustain it, for all 16 weeks at the time, my rookie year, now 17 weeks. And so had some injuries early on in my career, and it was just due from, overstimulation. After the season, I'm taking a week or two off, and then the next week I'm out there running full speed routes four times a week. And it's just like, there's no point in doing that. You're trying to play in January, February. And if you're trying to do that for a year long, your body's going to break down, and usually ends up breaking down in the middle end part of the season. And so thankfully, I had some really good mentors. And so they were able to show me the ropes and kind of show me, how it is to take on an NFL off season, what I should be doing in season to just kind of keep myself consistent, keep my body to be able to maintain, that level of performance. And so, it took me a while. It took me to year 3 and 4 to really figure it out, like what works for me, what works for my body. And so from being a young receiver to being now, I guess, veteran receiver in the NFL, I'd say that's the biggest thing that's changed for me, is just like my process of just how I go into preparation week in and week out in the season and in the off season.
This is Bandit. He founded Underdog Fantasy so that humans who really love sports could play with their friends and win some big prizes. Tell your human to go to underdogfantasy.com today.
Well, it's always interesting hearing athletes talk about that, like, because especially basketball, I think of, there's so many soft tissue injuries right now. Do you think it's guys being so hyper focused, overtraining? Do you think that's a problem for a lot of athletes these days?
Yeah, I think, it's funny because I think it can be both. Because also you have to, you can't do too little, because you also have to expose your muscles to a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing on the field. You can't just take 2 weeks off or take a week off and then just go out there and expect to do the same thing, hammy or something's coming. And so, as long as you are doing enough and you're doing it strategically, I think is perfect. But yeah, like I said, my rookie year, I took damn near every rep during practice. And by week 12, I ran an out route backside of a run play, and my foot broke, just clean break, clean fracture. And, they go in there and they look, and it's like, you already had basically like a stress fracture on both of my feet, but literally just from just wear and tear. Like just, you nowadays technology is crazy. We wear those tracking devices in the back of our pads that show you how many yards you ran, at what speed,
how many miles.
Yeah, and so there's a certain threshold of where guys are supposed to be in practice. And, I'm like in the red every single day.
Wow.
But it's like, he's a rookie, he's got to learn. He's got to take all the reps with the ones, and then he's got to go with the twos, and he's got to learn. And it just like, it just crushed my body, and I couldn't keep up with it. So I think it goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of the, as on a lighter note, so talk about some of the locker room guys, like some of the guys that you had as teammates that you love. And then some of the guys that you kind of was like, Oh, and I just mean every, whether when I say you don't know, like there would be guys like, man, that dude always brought his own lunch, not anything that, get you a text message from an old teammate, but just some of the stuff that people don't really think about a locker room is. Like some people don't believe that football players, like it's a job. Some of them like, oh, you just play football. But there is a business aspect, coworker, teammate aspect in that locker room.
There is a weird like office side of that. Like the locker room's kind of just like an office for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny for me, going and playing for the Cardinals. I'm walking into a locker room of guys that like, this is my hometown team. I've watched these guys play for forever. So like, I'm going from a fan to a teammate, so I'm walking in the locker room like Larry Fitzgerald, Patrick Peterson, Jermaine Gresham's in there. We had, tons of guys in there, David Johnson that, like were really good players for the Arizona Cardinals for a long time. And so, obviously number one, Fitz being there for so long, and, me growing up playing wide receiver, and, everybody in the Valley was a Larry Fitzgerald fan. And so,
Absolutely.
And I had met Fitz in passing from time to time. And I had actually played with Kurt Warner's son, growing up too. So, they would come out to our games from time to time, but nothing like, too formal. But, going from, being a fan, him, looking up to him, and now, we're sitting next to each other in meetings, it's just like, it's such a weird dynamic. But now I remember even Pat, when I first met Pat's like a little more reserved, and, you kind of got to figure him out a little bit. So I remember, introducing myself. He's like, "What's up, young fella? Congratulations, welcome to the team." And just, it was kind of like that, wouldn't really like, you had kind of had to like go out of your way, or I had to kind of like go out of my way to like talk to him, ask him a question and whatnot. And so, it's funny, like I'm close with Pat now, and, like we have a good relationship. But I remember at the beginning, like in practice, I'm like, this dude like must not like me at all, because training camp, he's like throwing me out of bounds every time, one-on-one reps, like he's jump jamming me. And I'm like, I got to figure it out quick, because he's just he's gonna make my life hell for the whole rest of the season. And so I knew it was him. Like I knew he saw my potential. So it was him, trying to bring that out of me and bring out that aggression and, really get me going, which helped, because it was like, I can't just roll out here practice and just think we're practicing. Like this is a game. So I think, having those relationships with vets like that, really helped. In Arizona, we always had, now that when we had JJ Watt, we brought in AJ Green, like they were always bringing in veterans that have played the game for so long. So from each one of them, I always got to pick up something, kind of just be a sponge. And it's really helped me.
So Patrick is pressing you up, and you naturally, your first instinct, right? And I love that you said that, because I want to ask this way.
Mm-hmm.
You think Patrick doesn't like you, but what led you to believe he didn't like you, and what would have made you feel like he liked you, like not jump jamming you, not throwing you out of bounds, like allowing you to catch the ball? Like what exactly?
Well, it was like one of those things, like, granted, again, I'm like 20 at the time. I'm figuring it all out. Like,
I understand.
In broad scheme of things, like if a rookie's coming to me and telling me, oh, so-and-so doesn't like me because he's jump jamming me, I'm like, you're crazy as hell. What are you talking about? But it was like, he wasn't doing it to anybody else. He was just doing it to me.
Okay.
So like, and this was like 3 days straight. Okay. First rep of one-on-ones.
Now hold on now. Are y'all in training camp or
we're in training camp.
All right, so let's play this scenario. I've been playing this for about going on 2 months now. Devil's advocate, right? Let's play this devil's advocate. Y'all in training camp?
Training camp.
So it's to train for the season?
Yes.
Okay. So I played against Patrick Peterson. I watched a little bit of his film. Are you telling me that 2-a-day practices or 1-day practice and 1-day walkthrough, that the only time Patrick Peterson was ever pressing anyone in coverage is just you? Is that what you're telling?
No, I'm not telling you that. I'm not trying to tell you that.
Okay. No, because the way you presented the evidence, you said, man, I was the only one he was jump jamming. He was only pressing me. At
the time on that day.
That day. Okay. I'm sorry. So that day.
You didn't let me finish. I got over it after about 3 days. I got over it. That was like, Pat likes me. We're cool, whatever.
Okay.
It was just at that day, at that time.
Gotcha. I'm asking because it's just like, I think a lot of young guys do believe that, like out of veterans, like they do come in when, like they are not, like when there's not a huge celebration. And I'm not saying that that's what you believe, but I have heard similar stories of other guys. Yeah. Oh man, Steve, you don't like me because, you didn't talk to me. Like, it's a business. It's like, I'm going to see you 10 hours for the rest of the day. Maybe I got something going on in my head. Like maybe I'm thinking, or my process, right? I got a process.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's what I was saying is like, if I had my younger self come say that to me now, I would be given the same answer that you're giving me now. Like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm sure Pat say the same thing. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not what this is. Because I played 3 years with Pat, and it didn't stop. It was the same thing. Every one-on-one, it was the same thing. Like me and Pat were cool. So like like at the time, I just remember like being like fully transparent. I remember having that feeling like, and sitting in there in post-practice meetings, and that's the worst feeling. Like they pull up one-on-ones post-practice. I'm getting jump jammed. I can't get off the line. I can barely, catch a pass. And so it's like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, damn, is he gonna like let me catch a pass or but it was good. It like was a total like kind of welcome to the league. This is how we're gonna operate.
Well, you got to college when you're 17, you get to the league when you're 20. So do you still view yourself, even though you are a veteran at this point, do you still view yourself as like the youngest guy in the room? Because that's kind of how you've started at every level of football, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was, and I've always really had guys that had played for a long time. Like even this past year, having Marvin Jones, 11 years in, like I love having people like that in the room because like that's knowledge that you can't, like, it's very rare that you're able to get around guys that have that many acquired seasons in the NFL that have played and done it at a high level too. So like when they speak, you listen. Anything they say, you listen. And so that I'm always like grateful for. And so this past year too, we had me and Zay. Zay's in year 6. I was in year 5. And, our receiver coach, Chris Jackson at the time, like we were the 3, we were the vets. And like still we had guys, because you also got to think now too, which I totally forgot. You got kids coming out now that had the COVID year. So they get an extra year. So like we got guys in year 2 that are the same age as me. And I got 5 seasons in the NFL. like I'm getting treated like an old head, but they're just as old as me. Like if not older. So like that's stuff that I forget about. Like there's rookies that are 25 years old, 24 years old, and it's like it's crazy. And so yeah, maybe in a sense, like I'm going into year 6 and like you're like, oh, you know, you getting up to a vet, and I'm like, I just turned 26 like a couple months ago. So it's like it kind of goes hand in hand. Like you feel old, but also feel like I could be one of the youngest guys in the room.
Man, that's a crazy dynamic. I never thought about that with the COVID, you know, and obviously you're living it. So yeah, take us through, right, another process, right, the free agency. Like, take us through free agency, what you experienced. You obviously wanted to stay in Arizona, right? But you also understand the business. And the business of it is you're not playing this game, right? This game is about money, right? It's about performance, and performance deems a pretty significant reward. Yeah. And so you had the opportunity to get that benefit of the reward of free agency. So heading into free agency, tell us what was, because there's this legal tampering. Now, I'm old head. There was no legal tampering. You know, when free agency hit, it was like the Wild Wild West, right? You had like 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 teams, or however many teams are going to call you, and you got to figure out the best scenario for you. But with this legal tampering, there's a little bit of a benefit, because there's a couple of days before free agency actually hits that you guys can agree to terms and go through that process. What was that like for you going through it?
Yeah, it was it was a little bit of a whirlwind, you know, because you go from the end of the season and you obviously have that window to where, you know, you can get extended by your current team. And then, you know, once that legal tampering or free agency hits, like, you know, you're a free agent, you know, you kind of have the option to go wherever you want to go. And so, you know, it was like a couple months of just, you know, seeing if Arizona was going to call and, you know, bring me back, and, you know, and they did. It was just trying to, like, you know, figure out the right number. And so, you know, like the closer and closer you get, you're like, you know, I kind of like came to the acceptance, like I'm probably going to go to free agency. And so it was a bittersweet moment for me, because, you know, I always envisioned myself, you know, being able to stay here in the Valley and, you know, play for the Cardinals and just kind of build out my legacy. And I knew it was such a unique opportunity. And I think it was like to be able to play here for a long time and, you know, become, you know, a household name within the Arizona Cardinals, you know, organization was just like would have been a dream come true for me. And, you know, even just playing for the 4 seasons that I did was amazing. And I'm really grateful for it. But it was just like, damn, like I'm not going to be here anymore. You know, I'm going to have to move away. And no, not that was a problem, but I didn't really see myself playing for anybody else. And so, you know, free agency is about to start. And then now it's like, where am I going to end up? You know, like the options are kind of endless. And so, you know, once, you know, the legal tampering period started, and, you know, my agents, you know, talking to some teams, and, you know, you kind of start to get a little more of a clear view on, you know, where you could possibly go. And for me, and it was like sitting down with him and just, you know, number one, we just started with quarterbacks and just, you know, started going down the line of, you know, quarterbacks that in situations that, you know, I like. And, you know, it's funny, I didn't really even, you know, think about Jacksonville until they reached out. And, you know, I was like, you know, I really like that team. We had played them my last year in Arizona. They were up in the third quarter, I think by 10. I remember like their defense was giving us fits. I'm like, they got a solid defense. They got some good guys over there. Like you could see it with Trevor. And so I'm like, all right. And then they're like, you know, I didn't know at the time either that they hired Doug. And so he was like, yeah, you know, they hired Doug Peterson too. And I remember Zach Ertz telling me, he's like, hey, you know, Barron, you don't come back here to Arizona if you get an opportunity to look at Jacksonville because of Doug Peterson. Like, you should really take it seriously. Like, he's one of the best. You know, obviously Zach played for Doug in Philly, won a Super Bowl, and so you should really take a look at playing for Doug. And so that carried a lot of weight with me. So just all the feedback that I had gotten from, you know, Doug and the positive reinforcement, I was like, okay, so that quickly, like Jacksonville quickly, you know, kind of shot up to number one for me. And so, you know, I think I went like the deal got done like day one of free agency. And so it's like my agent's like kind of going back and forth, and, you know, we're talking numbers, and then he's like, all right, you know, done deal. And it's just like, for me, it was just like the craziest feeling ever, because you work so hard, especially when you get into like year 3, and then especially you get into year 4, like you haven't got extended by your current team. Like, you don't really know. And so like year 4 is, you can make it to be out to like a lot of pressure. Like, if you want to talk about it, like, yeah, there's some pressure, because you're like, I'm making or breaking my kind of direction in this league. Like, I could either go get a multi-year contract with somebody else, or, you know, if I don't play well, then, you know, somebody's going to sign me to a 1-year, you know, prove it, or they just like, you know, a deal where you're like kind of chopping away at getting to that second deal. And so for me, it was just, that was a big goal of mine, was to get to that second contract, because, you know, the average lifespan of for us in the league is not long. And so I want to be here to play for a while. And so, you know, that was a big, you know, definitely motivator for me. And, you know, just super, super blessed and grateful for how everything, you know, worked out.
You had said before Josh Allen tried to recruit you to Buffalo by saying it's not that cold. What other players reached out and lied to you like that?
we Josh and I were actually we were on vacation at the time, and he's like, well, I'm like, obviously I would love to go to Buffalo, play with Josh. Like, Josh is a good friend of mine, and, you know, obviously he's an amazing player, an amazing quarterback. And so I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I'm like, bro, I was like, I can't do the cold. And he's like, it's not that cold. I'm like, you're not gonna sit here and lie to me, try to tell me it's not that cold.
Bold-faced lie.
Everybody who knows me knows I don't like the cold. I've never lived anywhere cold. I wouldn't be able to operate or thrive in anywhere cold. So I'm like, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna.
I'm good.
I'm not gonna take that. I'm good. I can't do Buffalo. Just Buffalo doesn't look right on me with the weather.
All right, I got to ask you this, because you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, right, with Lamar Jackson, and I got to ask you about the agent thing, right? I've had an agent. I've had the same agent, football agent, for my whole career. And so me and my agent, anytime I did my deals, because I have had some people tell me that, well, Steve, you just weren't smart enough to do your own deals. Okay, you could say whatever you want to say. I also understand that there's a lot of legalities. There's a lot of small fine print that if you don't hire a specialist, that they specialize in seeing I like to use tomfoolery, right? Some tomfoolery going on, some bamboozledness, right? Going on, that you could get tricked, right? Or you can not know what's going on. For you and your experience and in your young career, let's remove my 16-year career, right? Slight flex. Let's remove that, because I don't know anything, right? I have no idea what I'm talking about, because according to some people, I'm just a dumb idiot. What, for you in your experience of free agency that just happened last year, and you set the mark, bro, set the market. What did you having an agent and an agency for you benefit? And what do you see for other guys who don't have agencies or an agent and they're representing themselves? There's a lot of ways you can skin a cat, but I'm asking for you who has an agent that skins the cats for you.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. For me, it's important having a good agent and an agent in general, because like all things in life, if we want something fixed, if I need my toilet fixed, I'm not going to call an electrician, like
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. I hope not, because you need somebody who specializes in that area. And so I think it's worth paying somebody to do that for you. And, my agent, I've known for a long time, since I was a kid. And so I know I have somebody who's going to fight for me and who's going to believe in me. And so for me going into free agency, he was the one that was like, no, this is what I think he's worth. Even maybe at times where I'm like, oh, that's a big number. Like, okay,
I'll take that.
Sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. And he's like, no, this is what I think. This is what you're worth. This is what I think we're worth. And they have those relationships around the league too, to where it's like, you can get those opinions. You can get the, am I wrong for this or whatnot? And they have those relationships. And also another thing that I learned too, like, this is kind of sidebar from free agency, but they're also the guys too that when you are looking for a job, they have the relationships that they can call somebody. If you do get to that point, they can call somebody and say, hey, he's healthy, he's ready to go. Let's get my guy signed. Let's get him on the team. So there's a lot of benefits of having an agent. For me, it was having him believe in me and not budge. And when it comes to negotiations and whatnot, and how much money you get paid guaranteed, how does that get paid out? Does your signing bonus get paid within the first, 60 days of signing? Does it come in 2 installments? Does it come in 4 installments over 4 years? There's so many different ways that, they can kind of verbally be able to structure your contract and to try to benefit for a team. Yes, they're going to try to benefit themselves. They're not going to just say, here, let's give them the bank and let's give them everything you want. They're going to find a way to make it so where it's like, all right, we have this deal. Yeah, there's a big number, but I don't know, we can get out on the first day of the league year after his second year, or we can, so it's different ways to do it. And your agent's job is to protect you and to make sure that you get the most upfront guaranteed bearing anything happens. So I think that's number one, why it's worth it to have an agent who can do it at a high level, but also who has done it in the past as well. I think that's another big thing. Somebody who's done it, who has been able to negotiate big deals in the past and being able to, kind of structure those. So, that's a big thing. But guys representing themselves, I mean, you see it's definitely become a lot more popular now. But like you said, it's like, it's hard, when you get down into, some of that language within the contracts, even mine, I was like looking through mine. I'm like, this is like what people don't realize, if you sign a 4-year deal, right? For each year of that deal, you have to sign a whole contract. So that's like 20 pages of language. So now we're getting to 80 pages of a contract. So you have to read, and who knows if when you get to year 4's contract and page 17, section 5, if they changed
some language
in year 2, so those are just things that your agent sits down, does, and makes sure just kind of proofreads everything. And so even when I signed mine, like in the office, I have my agent sitting right next to me and we're just going through it. He's pointing this out. Hey, this is what this means. And you get paid this here. So in a long nutshell, I think that's one of the benefits, or a lot of benefits of having it, and some of the challenges of maybe not having an agent.
You talk about the pen hitting the paper. Have you ever been happier to pick up a pen in your life? Like what's that feeling like for you? Like is it hard to even focus on the minutia we're talking about when you're like, if I sign this paper, that comes to me. I'm not too concerned about every little detail here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely surreal, and it's definitely, a moment you start seeing some of those numbers, you're like, all right.
Crazy.
All right. Yeah, it's crazy. You go from a rookie deal to that, and it's like, it's night and day. And so, but it's just like, a lot of people try to say like, oh, you have to you have to go out and improve your worth, or, you know, you have to go out and earn it. And it's like, for me, it's like at the time I'm sitting there looking at it, it's like, man, I deserve it. I earned it. You know, like, this isn't sitting here for no reason. Like, they weren't just like, all right, here, you know,
because you're a good guy.
Right. They didn't call me, you know,
Yeah,
free agency
you're
open, my
good.
phone didn't ring.
No.
Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, you worked to that point.
Right. You know, and so it's like, it's a culmination, not only for what I've done in the NFL, but, you know, my whole entire life. And so just doing things the right way and in working to that point. And so it was, you know, it was definitely, you know, one of the better feelings, you know, of my lifetime.
How do you balance what you just said of you deserve it? And how did you balance hearing some of the feedback in the negotiation process with the Arizona Cardinals, right? Obviously, Jacksonville didn't have a problem with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere in that process, Arizona, maybe, I'm guessing, said something that kind of was like, look, we love Christian. Great kid. We want him back. But we only want him back for this.
Yeah.
How did you handle that, and like take us through that process? Because I don't think people understand that. I said the NFL business is, they look at us as a product, right? But they also want to get us at the cheapest price. They do.
Right.
Even if they get to save themselves $5, that's $5 less towards the cap, less towards dead money, less towards something that carries over that allows them not to sign someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said it earlier, but yeah, I think it just, you have to come to peace with it, knowing that at the end of the day, this is a business. And so, you know, at the end of the day, they're going to do what's best for them. So, you know, for me, like I said, it was just one of those things where, you know, you want to get re-signed and extended by the team that, you know, you got drafted by, you know, because there's ties, and, you know, you think, or, you know that, you know, coaches love you and whatnot, and you've done everything you can to put yourself in the position to, you know, continue your career in that organization. But I think for me in Arizona, it really strictly kind of came down to a numbers game. And, you know, so I think numbers wise, it just didn't work out. And, you know, there's, you know, with there was no like bad blood. It was no like, you know, they didn't respect me, or they didn't appreciate me or whatnot. Like
they just had a number that they were willing to pay.
Yeah. And which a lot of teams do. And then there's teams like Jacksonville at the time who have the money to be able to pay that, and, you know, can afford it and are looking to add players and to be able to build something. So yeah, you know, unfortunately it didn't work out with Arizona, but I think, you know, it's just strictly just like, it was a business decision. And you know, so I was understanding it obviously sucked, because I wanted to work something out, but, you know, it all worked out, you know, the way it was supposed to.
So 12 months ago, you signed this contract. You feel like it's earned after all the hard work. The immediate reaction from most of football America was like, that was a bit of an overpay from Jacksonville. Then you go out. Did you have this new chip on your shoulder? Like you just said, yeah, this was earned from the last decade of hard work. Now I've got to prove it to all these people who are doubting me just because someone gave me a new deal.
Yeah, you know, it definitely lit a fire. I mean, you know, more than ever. And, you know, kind of just looking back on it, it became one of those things to where there was so much of it, and just so much of people, you know, just every day, just somebody coming out and saying something about the whole thing. And it just became old. And so I didn't really pay any attention to it, because I'm like, I'm probably going to hear this for the rest of the season. So it was just also one of those things too, where I wish I didn't care so much at the time of what people had thought, because then it was like I was going out and playing for other people. You know, it was like I was going out and playing to try to like prove I'm this, or prove that I am worth, or prove. And it didn't need to be that. And so no matter what, any athlete nowadays, you know, especially in the professional world, there's going to be criticism. nobody is going to, there's always going to be somebody that says that you aren't who you think you are, or you aren't who people say you are. So, at the end of the day, it was like I wasn't trying to give people anything. And then when I did mess up or I did have a mistake, it was like, oh, I told you so, or, oh, I told you they, da, 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 da. And it was like, there's always going to be that regardless, like it's never ending. So I looking back on it, and I've like come to more peace with it. It's just like, there's always going to be somebody who says, they overpaid for him, or he's not worth the deal. And so it's just like, now I just literally give it zero peace of mind, and it's not even worth giving any energy to.
You go from Arizona and obviously to Jacksonville. You get a lucrative contract that's just well-deserved. Set the market for guys. What was that transition from the Valley to Duval?
Yeah, it was interesting just because I had never spent any time over there. Even growing up on the West Coast, like I never spent any time in Florida or on the East Coast. Like I'm not an East Coast guy. And so furthest I've been is Texas. And that was even far from me. But just a lot of, just wide eyes, just trying to take it all in. And it was great. The organization made it easy, for us going over there. I think the main thing is just normal life stuff, trying to find out where you're going to live, where's the local grocery store I can go to? Like, is there like, where's the mall? Where's like, where's everything? Where's the good restaurants? Where do I go? Where do I not go? And so it was just, normal things like that. And it's definitely a change of pace from Arizona. But we've like we've grown to fall in love with it. It's a great place. We love Jacksonville. And it's funny, even like towards the end of the season, I was driving with my fiance, and, we were just talking about how like, Jacksonville truly feels like home, and when you play, especially in football, when you play, in different cities and, different states, and, even when I was in College Station, you live there, you play football there, you go to school there, but it didn't feel like my home, like Jacksonville feels like my home. We have a home there, and we have friends there outside of football. And so it's like a lifestyle we've grown to really love. And so, I think at first it was a little bit of an adjustment, for us, but now it's like, I love going back there. I love, living in Florida, and, just the kind of change of pace that it offers.
Who has the crazier fan base, College Station or Duval?
Ooh.
As Jags fans, I feel like Bills fans have really taken the mantle, and they deserve it, as like this crazy fan base. Jags fans are insane, and I say that in a great way. I love Jags fans.
Yeah, the turnout that we had, especially when we were making a run, the night game against Tennessee, Chargers game, like when we started playing in those big games, like they came out. And that's one thing that, they had told me when I first got to Jacksonville, is like, this is a city that wants to win. And when you win, like, they'll come out. Like you won't feel, much more love than what you'll get here, especially when you're winning. And so those fans, like you said, they were out there tailgating all day long. Parking lot just flooded. And so it was really cool. And I've like been saying this recently, but the cool thing about it is, fans weren't like, hey, good game, thanks for what you do. It's like, thanks for what you've done for the city. Like, thanks for bringing, football, like, winning football, bringing the spirit of like loving the Jags back to Jacksonville. And so that's cool, hearing that from people, and people are starting to wear their jerseys and wear all their Jags gear out. When I first got there, I mean, you go to grocery store, gas station, nobody's wearing, Jags gear. So that was cool to see.
So, well, man, we appreciate you coming on, man. I know you got a lot more to your day you're on the West Coast here, on the East Coast, man. We about to be eating lunch pretty soon.
You got a graduation coming up, huh?
No, we did. My daughter, she graduated yesterday from cosmetology school. Shout out to my daughter's name is Bailey Jordan, but I call her BJ, Bejota. Yeah. So
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Man, appreciate it. She did 1,500 hours cosmetology school, and she's starting to kill it, man. I told her she need a bald head mannequin, man. She's walking to work on me.
I was about to ask if you've been a mannequin yet.
Yeah, nah, I mean bald head mannequin. So she, for whatever reason, she don't want to practice on me. So,
Yeah, right.
but it's been cool, man. It's been cool.
That's awesome.
I've had some rookies on here, and I always ask them. So I'm gonna start asking the veterans, man. You got any questions for me?
Ooh. Do I have any questions for you?
Yeah.
What in your 16 years, what was the most difficult year of your career?
Between 8 and 10.
Why?
Because I could feel my body changing, right? I can see the game a more broader. We weren't doing well, and so I was trying to balance between, we had some good years, bad years, but I was trying to figure out, one, how much longer can I play? How much longer will they allow me to play? How much longer do I want to actually play?
Right.
And I think at the time we went through a lockout. We got Cam, and I was in the late 30s, early 30s. So I was trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out, what the heck am I gonna do?
Right.
And so when I hit about that 9-10 year, I really started to get nervous of how much longer can I play? Do I want to play? And then all of a sudden I kind of wake up one day and I'm like, bro, I'm going into my 11th year. This is weird. Right? And then I started thinking about, man, I'm 30, 32, 33 years old. I don't even think that I'm still supposed to be playing. So I'm kind of I'm walking into the locker room, right? Antsy, right? And I said this one time, and it's look, I was like a 32-year-old person. I wanted the baby, the wedding ring, honeymoon, and championship all in one day, which is totally impossible. It's unrealistic.
Right.
Right. But for me, it was unrealistic that a ninja from LA and a knucklehead was supposed to be even playing this long. Right. Because I had some things that, I got arrested for assault. I got, people say, whatever category you want to put it, sucker punch, got in a fight, mollywop, it happened, right? I got in a fight. And so I went the scenic route of football, right? I went to junior college. I wasn't highly recruited, didn't take the SAT. And so about my 30s, I was kind of saying hey, can I still play this game? And if I am still playing this game, what is my value?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are they going to pay me? Reality versus fantasy. So I had a lot of things swirling in my head. And at the same time, trying to figure out, how to raise, 4 kids, how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to be an uncle, nephew, grandson. A lot was coming at me. And yet I'm still trying to figure out, right? Because I had never been 33. I'd never been a 33-year-old football player.
Right.
Never been a 32-year-old football player. So I didn't know what 32 was looking like. And then when I got to 32, I was like, damn, man, I'm limping into 33, right? So I didn't know what 33 would look like, 34. So every year I was discovering a new knowledge of the game, but I was also discovering a new ailment every offseason as well. So, and I wasn't hiding it from the team, but I was trying to manage, how do I manage my body? How do I figure things out? So it was a lot. heading into my 10th year, you know, you got that 5 through 6, man, you feel good. You can roll out of bed, don't stretch, and just, go get it. Yeah. Then about 7 or 8, you go, shoot, don't do that, man. That hand me a little tight now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm coming up on that 7 or 8. I don't like hearing that.
Well, it's just different. I mean, it's different.
It's the inevitable, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's the inevitable to a sense, but it, like you said, it's all like it's all taking it day by day and like learning your process, because your process changes, you know. And like you said, by age, by year, there's always going to be little tweaks of, you know, to your process of trying to like fit what your body and what your mind needs, you know, as well, to help you go out there and perform.
And your bandwidth, right? Yeah. Like I had changed one off season. I did a different kind of routine. That routine, I felt great, but my outcome wasn't good.
Yep.
And so even though I felt great, so and it was counterintuitive. Like, well, your body feels good, so why are you going to switch it up? Well, because I had did some adaptive sports training where like stretching before, stretching active, active recovery, active stretching. And man, I felt looser and great. But I lost the gear because I wasn't tightly wound, so I couldn't go get that go ball. Yeah. I was like, I was cruising in third gear the whole time. When I tried to go to fourth or fifth, man, I was hitting that clutch and it was, nope. And so that whole year, I felt great, but I lost something. And then so I had to take a whole 3 months of not doing anything to reset my body so it could get back stiff, so I could get that fourth and fifth gear, because that's how my body, that's how God created me. Yes. Now, the guy that I was working with, who introduced it to me, his body, it worked for him. Mm-hmm. But man, it didn't work for me. And so I had to learn the hard way. And I almost I won't say wasted a year, but I learned something about myself that I had to learn the hard way by going through the process.
100%. 100%. Well, thanks for sharing that with me.
No problem. And now I go back, man, I'm gonna have to go do some counseling because I'm just joking.
Yeah, it seems like you got some trauma.
It was actually the book that the guy gave me. I still use it now. You know, now I'm an old guy, right? I still use it. Yeah. But I can't do it every day. Like walking around like feeling like I like to feel like, I like to look behind my shoulder a little bit. I like to, when I twerk or do something, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not ready. I'm not warm. Yeah. Because that's what that's what I've been doing for 40 years.
Yes. So you know. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, man, appreciate you coming on the pod, man. Like I told you, when I saw you rookie year and I saw you at Jacksonville when you were playing the Jets, man, just the development of your game has been so awesome to watch, man. And seeing the type of player you could be coming out of college and scouting you, and the type of player you are today. And even with what I was able to see watching film on you, such a dynamic player, what you bring to the table, your ability to set up the defender, utilize your speed, you still couldn't see the kind of impact that you're having on Jacksonville, the type of impact that you're on Arizona. You can scout somebody, but what's inside of them and how much they adapt, man, you can't ever really get a grasp of that. And you're one of those outliers. You're one of those outliers that the comps and the comparisons are there. But that doesn't mean that you're going to play to that level. You may exceed it, and you've exceeded that, man. So, man, it's just dope to watch you play.
Yes, man. It always means a lot coming from you, and I appreciate the continued support. It really does mean a lot. And shoot, man, I'm just hoping I can get just a little bit closer to that 16 years you got. So I'm excited to keep the journey going and keep taking my game to where I wanted to go. But appreciate y'all having me on, man. It's been fun to just chop it up and and be able to do this. So any blessings. Appreciate y'all.
Cut to it, cut to it. Let's get down to it. Cut to it, cut to it, cut to it. Let's get down to it.